I've always had a fascination with mechanical devices, having been in the electronics industry. So I started life doing mechanical things, which I've done for many years. So really I've gone back to what I did when I was a teenager. The thing I've done more of now is that I take on something that's a challenge to me. I didn't know how a compound steam engine works, so I made one. I looked for a steam engine that was more precise, so I built the beam engine and then the oscillating engine, which to me was clockmaker's quality of the engine, the precision required. I've gone from classic motor cars back to something, because if you make a mistake you put it in the bin and you cut off another bit of metal and you make another one. And I love my cars because I was brought up with them, and I feel very lucky that I've owned the cars I did and restored them and driven them and got the pleasure out of them. And then with the V12 Jaguar, developing the ignition system from the old one that fitted Aston Martin, the Aston Martin V8, the V12 Jaguar and Cosworth racing engines, the V8 Cosworth engine. I made the boards and the pickups and sent those all around the world. I did that for about 11 or 12 years. And one day I thought, well, I don't think I want to be fixing up people's cars anymore, and I've gone onto my clocks. I got back into clocks. The fascination really after I built the first one to make the next one even better. So now I've gone to a mechanical clock that works out the days of a month, whether it's got 30, 31, or it's a leap year, or it's Monday, it's got a second hand. Then the challenge came, you need to buy gear cutters, and when I wrote to the manufacturer in England, they didn't reply to my emails, so I thought, I'm going to make my own cutters now, how do I do that? So I set about learning how to make gear cutters for a clockmaker. Now there's not a lot of information, and people then said pinion cutters are hard to make. So I decided I was going to make the hard ones, which I've done. Restoration to me is, it must be kept absolutely as original. So you can repair the old grandfather clock, which is 1680, that's in the hallway. All the pivots are very worn out in it, but I won't rebush it until it stops going. And the intriguing thing about that is last year it stopped, and 25 years ago I took it to a watchmaker to fix it. And what I found is that he had actually arrowdited part of the pendulum together, and that had, just by pulse, the arrowdite failed after 25 years. So I pulled it out and had a look, and one tap with a punch fixed the clock as original. So it is an art, and it's lovely to get an old thing going as original. The other clock in the lounge, there were some parts missing on the strike mechanism, and I searched the web to try and find out. I got no information, so I sat down and worked out how it worked, and I fixed the strike silent part of it. And that to me is, I've kept it as original as I could. I think the big pleasure you get when you get an old brass dial, the silver's been polished off it, and put it back to original, and seeing how magnificent that clock looks. They certainly are, and a lot of people have, probably because they haven't sat down and worked out how to do it. But you've got to remember that people did this when they only had a horse and cart. They made these things. They didn't have any electronics. And so it is a case of sitting down and the pleasure in doing things mechanically. It's quite easy to do things electronically, but to do it mechanically, and especially the calendar clock, that was a real challenge when I looked at it. I thought, wow. And doing all those date mechanisms, the book you can't actually understand, you have to put it together to then work out how it works. It's a bit like a compound steam engine. You have to actually put it together and then to understand how it all works. So that really is what it's all about.